the latest average of polls nationwide. The nominees have one final day to make their case. Here they are in the fight to the finish.
This election is a moment of reckoning. It is a choice between division or unity, between strong, steady leadership or a loose cannon.
Real change also means restoring honesty to government. We'll start by getting rid of Clinton.
An America where we prove once and for all that love trumps hate.
This is a marathon today. We're not playing games, right? Hillary right now is fast asleep. She's sleeping so beautifully.
There's fear, even anger in our country. But I've got to say, anger is not a plan, my friends.
Hillary Clinton should not even be allowed to run for the presidency. What's happening is a disgrace, and our country is a laughing stock all over the world.
Well, that indeed may be true. This has been quite the marathon. It's called the ultra marathon, Kimberly, but I don't think either of them, I mean, she sounds a little hoarse, but both of them seem like they've got a lot of energy going into this last day.
Well, because look, there's a lot of different, conflicting reports in the polls, but one thing for sure is that Trump is in a very good position now, probably one of the best he's ever been in terms of some of the battleground states, some of the things moving to toss-up or lean GOP. So I don't think anybody should take anything for granted. They've got to fight all the way to the finish line, especially in those battleground states, and you can see that as evidence in the fact that they're making multiple appearances. You see them all out, campaigning Trump, hence all the surrogates to try to shore up the vote and, encourage enthusiasm and get out the vote for tomorrow.
So, Juan, what do you hear from the Brooklyn side of things over there across the river?
Well, it's interesting just talking to pollsters all over, and I think what the conclusion is that Trump had been closing the gap, the tightening of the race, the consolidation of Republican voters, Dana. But that momentum over the weekend seemed to have stalled, and then you throw in the announcement from the FBI, and I think that's why you see a little bit more of a bump right now coming for Clinton. And I think people are thinking that it's just a narrowing pathway to 270 for Donald Trump, that he would have to win all the swing states, in addition to holding on to all the states that Romney won, and then he'd have to flip one of the big states away from the blue wall that Clinton is relying on, and of course we've seen him over the weekend in Minnesota and in Michigan.
And also in Pennsylvania, Eric, the Trump-Pence campaign has been back and forth there quite a bit over the last 48 hours.
Yeah, he needs to win all of Romney's states and a couple of paths through swing states, not all the swing states. You can lose some swing states, but we still have a path. 595 days ago, Ted Cruz said, I'm throwing my head into the ring to run for president in 2016. That was a year and a half, more than a year and a half ago. 22 candidates. We're down to 1 day, 2 candidates. I don't think it's over. I'm just going to say, look, I know, there are a lot of people who are saying it's done, she's winning because she has a 3 or 4 point margin in some of the national polls. But if you go state by state and you look what's going on, every single one of these, let's call them Trump paths, are within the margin of error. And I've said this before, I still think there are going to be 4 or 5 states that surprise people on both sides. And I think we're going to be here late tomorrow night.
Well, we are. We're assigned.
Anyway, even later than we expect to be.
Yeah. Any final thoughts going into this last day?
Well, I don't know. I mean, everybody's saying stuff because it's like last call at a bar and nobody wants to go home alone. So they're out there saying, Hillary Clinton talking about unity and about bringing people together. That's like a bull offering to sweep the China shop. She's spent a year balkanizing a country in order to win votes, and now she's talking about unifying. I don't buy that whatsoever. I don't know. I look at the Cook political report. The final scorecard's got 278. Hillary winning. There's 46 votes toss-up. Why would you do that if you weren't sure? I mean, I trust the Cook political report. So they're not like Dick Morris, people who say things because they want people to believe it, and then at the end of the night they scurry off into the darkness and everybody's left holding their bags.
The one thing we do know is that early voting is up in I think all the states that have early voting show that people are really enthusiastic and turning out, and in particular, Kimberly, the Hispanic vote is up in Florida and Nevada, Colorado in particular.
Well, that's a testament, of course, to Hillary Clinton's get out the vote, and her team has been very successful in terms of targeting to get those voters and try to motivate that segment of the population, and it counts, especially in a state like Florida. But nevertheless, she does not have that solidly, in her favor. That still remains a toss-up, a battleground state, and Trump's continued to do, very well there. So I think that's going to be one that's going to be maybe tough for her.
But
And what about-
let me just throw something in there on that point there, which is Dana Blanton, who runs polling here at Fox.
Lots of Danas.
What?
There are a lot of Danas.
There are. And
Some say too many.
I know you do.
anyway, that pump up in the Latino vote has been significant, not only in Florida, but it has prompted Fox polling, Dana Blanton, to push Nevada from a toss-up now to a lean Democrat state. And again, that shuffles that electoral college map again.
But I wanted to ask you one about the African-American vote, because apparently that is down. We probably knew that it would be, because President Obama is on the top of the ticket. And in particular, could you talk about Philadelphia and how there was the transit strike that finally ended this morning, but that had the Clinton team a little worried?
It did, because the question is people getting out to vote, or people who intended to vote but therefore were delayed or waylaid, if you will, because they had to find a car or transportation to get to work, thinking they didn't have time to go vote. So it's a big deal for them, and I think you're going to see they've got so many. I read where it's not who's the famous lady, Madonna. Madonna's going to be with Hillary Clinton tonight.
The
No,
Madonna?
I think it's Lady,
No,
it's Lady Gaga.
And Bon Jovi.
All of them together? Isn't that like the continuity of
How can
government?
you tell the
in
difference
Hollywood?
between Lady Gaga and Bon Jovi?
Oh my God. Let me ask you something about Michigan that I think is an interesting thing. In a lot of these other battlegrounds, Eric, like Nevada, New Hampshire, which is now looking really good for the Republicans, both not just for Trump, but also for the Republican incumbent senator, Kelly Ayotte. In Michigan, there is no Senate race. Unlike Florida or North Carolina, New Hampshire, or even Nevada, where you had Senate races that are actually the battlegrounds, Michigan really hasn't had that much attention. So perhaps the Trump campaign thought, well, we have an opening there because the Democrats ignored it.
Sure. Yeah, and he spent a couple of times. He's been back to Michigan a couple of times in the last 2 days, and that's really one of the paths. If he doesn't win Pennsylvania, Michigan is that other path. There's 10 there. If he can pick off New Hampshire, like you said, possibly even Nevada, then there's another path. All I'm saying is, I mean, a lot of these polls, too, you really have to look into the methodology, how they're skewed, how many Democrats are polled, how many Republicans are polled. It really does matter. My point is this, and I'm not trying to pull wool over anyone's eyes or make promises that I don't think are true. I honest to God think we will have interesting races that'll be surprises, and you just don't know. I mean, if you're right, though, Florida's,
One of
if
those
he
is
doesn't win Florida, you'll know at 9 o'clock tomorrow night.
Some Democrats last night were telling us that Florida, Michael Bingham, who was on the, that big podcast TV show we do on Sundays, he was saying that Florida actually, he does think that Marco Rubio will win, but by not as comfortable a margin as they thought, partly because of what you were saying, Kimberly.
Yeah.
So they feel-
And also the Democrats were very concerned. It's like Nate Silver, who's predicted the last two presidential elections, was saying 3%, margin of error, but that's not enough to call it. He still thinks it's very close. Anything can happen. IBD poll, that one also showed, Trump has ticket ahead. So I think this is going to be definitely one to watch. I think far closer than Romney Obama.
And you have a new column up on FoxNews.com.
That is correct.
Before we go to the break.
It is about the 3 lies you were told about this election. I urge everyone to read it.
But one lie
Can you
is,
tell all three?
one thing that we were told that's true,
What?
it is being held tomorrow.
Yes, that's
So
true.
that is true. Coming up, we're going to take you inside our brand new studio, America's election headquarters, for tomorrow night. Bill Hemmers at the billboard to tell us where the race to 270 stands now. And we are waiting remarks from Donald Trump at a rally in Pennsylvania, as we were just talking about, important state. Stay tuned for that and much more ahead on The Flash.
I just wanna take your time. I don't have to meet your mother. We don't have to cross that line. I don't wanna steal your colors.
Insults women, it's all